Hello, and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve, and it's been quite a while between videos. In fact, it was 2 weeks since my last release. And the main reason for that is I was obviously waiting for all of the FA Cup fixtures to come through so that we could have a fair idea of what our teams need to be doing moving forward. But in my last video, I was teetering on the edge of bringing in KDB, but having only had 30 minutes of the Huddersfield FA Cup match, which I think was a round 3 match, I decided that I'd wait for any team leaks, and if we got word that KDB was going to start, I'd run with him. Otherwise, I'd opt for the safer minutes of Pascal Gross. Now, obviously, I am ruining that decision, as if you do go back and watch like the last few moments of my last video, you'd probably think that I bought KDB in straight after that video, as I was so gung-ho for him. But anyway, that's done and dusted, and there's actually quite a lot to get through in this video around the trip strategy. And in the last 2 weeks, the FA Cup Round 3 replays and Round 4 matches have all been played as of this morning in New Zealand time. The blanks, well, at least the blank in gameweek 26 has been confirmed, and some doubles have been confirmed for 25. There still might also be some additional double game weeks dropping into gameweek 25. We have a little bit more clarity on the blank in gameweek 29 as well, and so the lay of the land for all of our future game weeks is a lot more visible. And so it is as of this point right now that we can start to decide on our chip strategies. And I think it's important to get a good idea of what this might look like for each of your teams out there, as this week's transfer now becomes quite crucial for setting up for Game Week 25's double and, well, not necessarily setting up for Game Week 26's blank, but having an idea of exactly how we are going to navigate that. So in the 2 weeks that I've been off, I've actually spent some time on the fixture ticker. It's my personal fixture ticker that I have been building out this season in order to show all of this information to you guys a little bit more clearly. So with the tool now upgraded, hopefully I can actually walk you through the impact of all these external competitions like the FA Cup, the EFL Cup and whatnot, and how that affects the blanks and doubles in future for FPL. So like I said, we've got a lot to get through in this video, but before we get started, if you like the following content, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. So there's no better time than now to bring up the fixture ticker as we go through game week 26 with the blanks being confirmed. Now, for those of you who do view my videos on a mobile device, you might want to jump onto a computer at some point and maybe come back to some of these screens, blow it up so that you can actually see what's going on in order to get a good idea of what is coming up. But basically, this is just the default view of my fixture ticker. It's currently just ordered by club name, so there's no ordering of the difficulty of the fixtures here. So in game week 25, which I'll roll it back to game week 22 so you can see a bit more clearly as of where we are. Game week 25, the blanks that have been confirmed are sitting in the game week of game week 25, coloured in purple. So that is Brentford playing Liverpool at home and Man City away, and Man City excuse me, playing Chelsea at home and Brentford at home. So these doubles have been confirmed. But right next to the game week 25 game week, you'll see that there's a new game week sitting in here, which is in blue. This is called game week 25 plus, as in there could still be some double game week fixtures dropping into this game week, into game week 25. And those would be the Bournemouth versus Luton game that needs to be rescheduled. There is a potential that that could be dropped in here. Chelsea versus Tottenham, as Chelsea do blank in game week 26. That was their opponents. They could be pulled back into game week 25 to give Chelsea a double in 25. The Liverpool versus Luton fixture, which is cancelled in game week 26, could also come back, meaning Liverpool may have a double in game week 25. Luton have 2 games to be rescheduled. The fixture against Liverpool, that was in game week 26, and also that Bournemouth fixture. Either of these could drop into game week 25. And of course, Spurs versus Chelsea down the bottom, as they are now blanking in game week 26. And we can also see a little bit further out into future that game week 29 is going to be the biggest blank of the season. Now, we still need the FA Cup round 4 replays to be played, and of course the round 5 matches before we do know who will be blanking in the biggest blank of the season. And so what I have added here is an advanced schedule view with these external competitions chucked in, so you can kind of see exactly how busy each of the teams are going to be. So the round 4 replay will be played in game week 23. There's only 3 teams that need to play a replay. Aston Villa versus Chelsea up here will have a replay, so Chelsea will also be playing Aston Villa away. Bournemouth have made it through, Brighton have made it through, that's what this little arrow symbol means here. Liverpool are through, Luton through, all these teams are through, and of course Nottingham Forest will be playing Bristol City at home. And then in game week 24, the Champions League round of 16, leg 1 will be played. That will be Man City versus Copenhagen as the only fixture there. Arsenal are still in the Champions League, but their leg 1 fixture is going to be played in game week 25, which is out here against Porto, which I've highlighted on screen. And also the Europa League and Europa Conference League fixtures for the knockout rounds would have been played by Aston Villa, Brighton, Liverpool and West Ham, but all of the Premier League teams won their groups, and so they automatically advance through the knockout stages, which is again why these guys have little arrows here. This is a 2-leg fixture, so there would have been matches in game week 24 and 25, and so they also don't have the second fixture out here. And you can see the game week 26 blanks. Now if I just roll it forward a little so that we can see game week 29 out here. The EFL Cup final is being played in game week 26, and that will be Liverpool versus Chelsea. And this is why both of these teams are blanking in game week 26. As you can see, the blanks are confirmed on screen with the little dash symbol. But of course, Chelsea's opponents and Liverpool's opponents also have a blank, and that is Luton and Spurs in game week 26. You can see that the FA Cup round 5 fixtures are also going to be played in between game weeks 26 and 27. And you can see all of the opponents that have been set up. So Bournemouth versus Leicester has been scheduled. Brighton versus Wolves has been scheduled. Villa versus Chelsea, one of these teams will drop out as they play each other in the round 4 replay match, and so they just have question marks against them. Liverpool have made it through, but they don't know who they are going to be playing yet, because it will be based on one of the replay fixtures, so it's got a to be defined with an exclamation mark in here. Same with Man United and Newcastle. They have made it through, but their opponents are yet to be defined. Man City play Luton and Wolves play Brighton. So you can kind of get an idea of who is still in the FA Cup. Arsenal are out. Brentford are out. As you can see, they are just white in this column. Crystal Palace, Everton, Fulham all out. Sheffield United, Spurs and West Ham. Now, quite importantly, Spurs are out of the FA Cup, and their opponents in game week 29, so if we come right out to the big blank game week on the far right of the screen here, Fulham are also out of the FA Cup, and so Fulham and Spurs will be getting played in game week 29, which is actually quite key because quite a lot of us have players like Pedro Porro in our squads. Spurs could potentially double in game week 25, as I've just gone through, and they now definitely have a game in game week 29. There are only a couple of confirmed fixtures at this point. Burnley and Brentford, who are also out of the FA Cup here, they can obviously play each other in game week 29, and everyone else still could potentially blank. We do need to see the round 4 replays and the round 5 fixtures come out. So even though Arsenal is out of the FA Cup, their opponents of Chelsea are still in the FA Cup, even though that they are playing Aston Villa in the round 4 replays. So as you can see, game week 29 is going to be a very big blank game week. So now that we know the blanks in game week 26, so just come back to where we are at. That's game week 21, game week 22. So we know out here which teams are blanking, and we have an idea of who is doubling, and the additional potential doubles that might drop into game week 25. We can start to plan our chip strategy and how we are going to navigate game week 26 blank and that big blank in game week 29. So I still currently have all of my chips. I have my second wildcard, free hit, bench boost, and the triple captain chip. Now, the easiest way to probably go through this is to figure out exactly when I am going to use the free hit chip this season. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of a dry throat. So, do I save the free hit chip for this big blank game week in game week 29? Now, for those of you who have been following the channel for quite a while, you'll be well aware that I do not like using the free hit chip in the biggest blank game week in any season, as I think there are only a few key assets that you'll actually have to cover for that game week, because most of the big teams will be blanking. There might be one or two big teams that might have a game scheduled. In this case, Spurs would be the only big team here, really, that has a game scheduled currently in game week 29. So Brentford play, Burnley play, Spurs play, and Fulham play. And so the only key assets I'd really want to be covering in game week 29 would be Spurs. And if I was going to free hit, and this was the lay of the land at the moment, I'd be filling up my team with assets from Brentford, Burnley and Fulham. Now obviously those are less than desirable assets, which are much more punty plays. And so my general strategy around these big blank game weeks is make sure you have the key assets from, in this case, Spurs, probably play with less than 11 men in the game week, and maybe take a hit or two just to make sure that we do cover any of the key assets, assuming that those key assets also set up your team well for the coming game weeks. So I think this is probably the worst use of the free hit chip in game week 29, and I will not be using it in game week 29. So do I save the free hit chip for a big double game week. So I don't think can't actually remember if I put these in yet. Ah, yeah, I did. So I have put in the game week 34 and game week 37 potential doubles. Now, of course, these are just the fixtures that still have not been scheduled. So Bournemouth versus Luton could be scheduled in game week 25, as you saw earlier, but if it doesn't get scheduled in game week 25, it could also go into game week 34 or game week 37. So these are the blue columns out here at the end. Now, game week 34 is going to be a blank game week for anyone who is still in the FA Cup, but it is also going to be a double game week in order to catch up on any of these fixtures that have yet to be scheduled. And so game week 34 is going to be a blank and double game week, as you can see on screen with all the black fixtures and the potential blue fixtures. And then game week 37 is going to be the biggest double game week of the season, as they will pretty much jam in all of those fixtures into the second to last game week of the season. Now, again, for those of you who have followed the channel for a little while, I do love using my free hit chip in those big double game weeks, as you can just get 11 players on the pitch who all double, effectively playing with 22 men in those big double game weeks. But this year, the big double is in game week 37, which does cause a bit of a problem. Now, when you're this close to the end of the season, a whole bunch of teams are going to be on the beach. So any of the mid-table teams that are safe from relegation but also cannot make your Europa or Champions League spots basically have nothing to play for. And so you get a very mix match of performances out of these teams when you are this close to the end of the season. There is also sometimes a lot of rotation within the teams, as managers do, sometimes play some of their bench players when there's nothing really to lose and they want to get some of their players out onto the squad, out onto the pitch. And so trying to set up for a double game week using that free hit chip across heaps of different teams can become a bit of a minefield, and so I don't think this is going to be the best game week to use the free hit chip in either. Now, I could be wrong here. I mean, we could find out that it's Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea and City who all end up doubling in game week 37 once we find out what other blanks are coming up and where the other doubles do get scheduled in. And so it could actually be a very good use of the chip if all of these teams are still vying for Champions League spots, vying for the top of the Premier League, vying for Europa spots, and they could all be out playing with their strongest sides. But again, perhaps Liverpool or Man City or whoever has already won the league by this point. They are safe from everything and they don't really need to field their strongest teams either. So it's a bit of a gamble to save the free hit chip way out until game week 37, but it could be quite viable. However, the only other option here for the use of this free hit chip is, if we bring it all the way back to our current game week, is to navigate this small blank game week in game week 26. Now, spoiler alert, this is what I am going to be aiming for, and I will show you why in the next part of this video. But you can see that the key teams that are blanking here is Chelsea. So pretty much everyone has Palmer in their squads. I also have Gusto in my squad, and I have no plans to sell either of them. You can see that Liverpool is blanking in game week 26. Now, I don't currently own any Liverpool assets, but the minute that Salah is back, I will be bringing him straight back into my squad. as I think he is just obviously one of the best players in the game. And Spurs also blank in game week 26, and I currently own Pedro Porro and Kulusevski. Kulusevski being my differential in midfield, who has failed me miserably. I brought him in when he was on 4 yellow cards for a couple of game weeks punt. He got his yellow card in that very first game week, earning a 1-pointer, was suspended for the very next game week, and then I was looking forward to rolling him out last game week, and he was apparently struck down with illness that he was struggling with for the entire week, which we did not hear about at all, and he wasn't even in the squad. So Kulusevski's been a bit of a letdown, but he is the man that is going to be leaving my team this week, as I will look to fill up that differential spot. But they do blank in game week 26. They do potentially double in game week 25 alongside these other key teams like Liverpool and Chelsea, who could all potentially double in game week 25. So the way that I'm actually working this out is I'm going to be working backwards from game week 25. So if I just bring up the transfer planner, this is my current team rolled forward to game week 25 with absolutely no transfers made. So it's just my game week 22 team, no transfers made, rolled forward to game week 25. And I'm going to kind of show you exactly who I want in this team. So Kulusevski's gone. He will be in for someone like De Bruyne. I imagine that De Bruyne will probably be back playing 90 minutes before game week 25, but at this point I think he will almost certainly be back on the pitch playing the majority of minutes, and with Chelsea at home and Brentford at home, this is basically a no-brainer for me. I love jumping on the high upside players that play in midfield or attack, as opposed to going with someone like a Kyle Walker in defence to try and jump on 2 clean sheets with very little prospect of any assists. I will also have Haaland in my squad. Now Haaland is actually going to have to come in for Ollie Watkins, otherwise I will not be able to afford my future team, and so Watkins will be out at some point, and I will have the triple up of Haaland, De Bruyne and Foden for their double in game week 25. Now Gross will not be in here. This will be Maddison, James Maddison, who I started game week 1 with, and he is the big reason that, or one of the big reasons as to why I managed to make my way all the way up to 25k in the world as of about game week 8 or 9 or somewhere around there. Maddison was just absolutely key to that, and so he will be back in my team. He made it out onto the pitch for the last 20 odd minutes in the Man City vs Spurs game. He was absent in that match as Man City basically just dominated Spurs completely, but Maddison was back onto the pitch running around, and so he will almost certainly be back up and running by the time game week 25 rolls around. And of course, assuming that Salah is back from injury and Egypt are out of AFCON, I will also have Salah in my squad, which actually leaves me 1 million in the bank here. And this is kind of the team that I will be running with. Now I've got triple City attack for the double. Now Liverpool might double against Brentford and Luton. So if I just go back to the fixture ticker over here, Liverpool in game week 25 have Brentford away, but the fixture that is being cancelled or has been cancelled in game week 26 could be moved back into game week 25. It hasn't yet, but that would be a double of Brentford away and Luton at home. So that would be a pretty decent double for Salah. And of course, if Salah is back fit and ready for that first Brentford away fixture, he will be in my squad. There's just no no question about that, he will be back in there, and so I will have Salah in the squad. Now, if Salah isn't back fit and ready at this point, I may look to someone else like a Jota or maybe a Gakpo or maybe a Diaz. We will have to see closer to the time what the Liverpool squad is looking like at that point. But basically the slot will be a Liverpool asset for the double, and if Salah is not back fit and ready here in game week 26 or 27, Salah will be back fit and ready, and I will want him back in my squad, and so I'm just making sure that I definitely can afford him in here. This is why I had to sell Ollie Watkins up front as opposed to Dominic Solanke, so that I can fit in Haaland, De Bruyne, Maddison and Salah. I will probably be using my triple captainship in game week 25, either on Haaland at home to Chelsea and Brentford, or on Salah if he is available and doubling in this game week. Now, as I mentioned, Spurs might also be doubling in game week 25, and their double could potentially be Wolves at home and Chelsea away. And so if that double does drop in, I will have both Pedro Porro and Maddison doubling in game week 25. And then finally, Bournemouth also have a double that is remaining to be scheduled. They play Newcastle away in game week 25, but they could also get this Bournemouth versus Luton fixture, which was quite far back now, which was, can't remember why they abandoned that, but this fixture could be rescheduled into this game week, assuming that Liverpool versus Luton isn't dropping into game week 25. So obviously Luton can't play 3 games in this game week, so they will probably either drop in to play Liverpool or drop in to play Bournemouth. So we're not too sure how that will happen, but there is the potential that Dominic Solanke could also be doubling. So that would be my Triple City doubling, maybe Bournemouth doubling, maybe Liverpool doubling, and potentially Spurs doubling as well, with my other single game weekers being Gabriel away to Burnley, Burn at home to Bournemouth, Bradford at home to Bournemouth, and Palmer away to Man City. So this is the team that I want in game week 25. As you can see, it's 4 transfers for me to get to this team. And I've got 1 free transfer in game week 22. So I've got 1 free in 22, 1 free in 23, 1 free in 24, and then I'll have 1 free transfer in game week 25. That is my 4 transfers to get to this team for the double in game week 25. Now the issue with this team is if I roll forward to game week 26, this is what it looks like. The blanks are obviously a bit of a problem. So if I just so I won't be selling Palmer, assuming Salah does double. I won't be selling Salah because I want him after this game week. I'd have Gusto, Palmer, Salah, Maddison and Porro all blanking in game week 26. Both of my Bournemouth lads would be playing Man City at home, which is not at all ideal. And my Newcastle defensive triple up would all be away to Arsenal. That's a horrific fixture. And then Gabriel, my only remaining playing player, would be at home to Newcastle in game week 26 as well. So as you can see, if I set up really well for this game week 25 double, game week 26 is a bit of a nightmare, and a free hit team in game week 26 actually looks quite tasty. So if I just drop in, bring back Watkins, chuck in even Tony. We've got De Bruyne, Foden, someone like Bowen, who's just there, and bring back Saka, maybe. Saka I'm not too sure about, we'll see what happens there. Defensive line of Nori, Mitchell from Crystal Palace, and someone like Stupinan from Brighton, and who knows, some keeper. Make a decision on the keeper later. This is what a free hit team could look like in game week 26. Leaves me 0.1 million in the bank as of right now. Some of these players will be changing in value over the course of the week, so I might not necessarily just be able to get to this, but something like this looks way stronger than the team that I just showed you from my game week 25 doubling team of this. So the free hit chip this season, at least for my team and the way that I'm structured, looks to be best used as part of a multi-game week strategy in which I'm actually building towards a game week 25 double team where all those teams that are doubling in game week 25 will all blank in game week 26. And there are some very tasty fixtures in game week 26 which I could exploit with the free hit chip. So even Tony away to West Ham, that could actually be quite good for Tony. Watkins coming back in at home to Nottingham Forest, that could be quite good. I'd need to cover these two players, and I wouldn't have no easy way of doing that with my game week 25 squad. I would already have this triple Man City set up, so that would be, I mean, I could maybe make this with a few transfers, but it's just way too many transfers. Like, this is 7 transfers, right, to get to this type of team. I'd have Bowen in for Brentford at home. The backline of Nori, attacking defender, playing Sheffield United at home. Mitchell, a somewhat attacking defender with Burnley at home. Hopefully clean sheet there. Stupinan, incredibly attacking defender at home to Everton. I mean, I could maybe make a clean sweep of clean sheets back there. Saka is probably the only man I am not at all sure who I would drop in here based on the rest of the fixtures. But we will need to see what's going on at that point. I don't really fancy Saka at home to Newcastle, but this could basically be any player in the game less than, what's he at now? 9.1 million for Saka. Jeez, that seems way overly priced at this point for what he is putting out. But this kind of gives you an idea of why I will be free hitting in game week 26. But there is just one slight caveat here, is when I come back to my team in game week 27. I mean, the team looks good. Triple City at home to United. United's still looking pretty poor. They just conceded 2 goals to Newport County this morning in the FA Cup. Palmer away to Brentford. Solanke away to away to Burnley. My Spurs lads at home to Crystal Palace. Salah away to Nottingham Forest. See, as you can see, I'm definitely going to want Salah back in here. My Newcastle triple up playing Wolves at home. I've got Gusto on the bench away to Brentford. I mean, this whole squad just looks awesome for game week 27. And I will have 1 free transfer. But crucially, I won't have Son in this team. Now, Son is also one of those key players that I just do not want to be going without. He is the other reason why I was so high up in the overall rankings a lot earlier in the season. And so in order to get Son into this team, I would be dropping Foden, bringing in Son, who is currently 9.7 million. He will have dropped a lot further by game week 25, 26, 27. So he's at 9.7 million now. Obviously, Salah's at 13.1. He will drop further by this point as well. And so I will need to find 0.9 million in order to bring Son in from game week 27 forward, or less, assuming that Son and Salah also do drop further in value. And so the only way to do this is probably at this point to sell Pedro Porro and bring in someone who is 4.8 million or less. I've got no idea who I would bring in. Maybe we just chuck in someone random like, I don't know, I could even switch across to Udogi if I really wanted to. The reason I will be getting rid of Porro as well is with Maddison back in the team, Porro will lose all of the set piece duty that he has been in charge of with Maddison out of the squad. So in game week 27 I may need a hit in order to bring Son into the squad. Yeah, and so I would have Haaland, De Bruyne, Son, Salah and Maddison in my team alongside Palmer and Solanke, with a not too bad set of defenders onto the pitch. Now, I have a lot of team value as I have been scrimping and saving in this team for the whole entire season, and so you may not necessarily be able to afford this team, but it would be quite a good idea to have a look at where your current team sits, roll it forward to game week 25-26, see how they shape up, and figure out what you're going to do with your chips. Now, having used the triple captain chip in game week 25 and the free hit chip in game week 26, that only leaves the wildcard and bench boost, which kind of becomes a no-brainer at that point. I'll be wildcarding about game week 31, 32, 33, somewhere around there, to set up for that blank and double in game week 34 and the big double in game week 37, and fire off my bench boost chip either in game week 34's big double or game week 37's big double, although probably not then, as for the reasons I have already gone over earlier in this video. Or I could even bench boost in a single game week. I did go through an exercise earlier on in the season to try and figure out when a bench boost chip might be viable, and I was quite happy to be bench boosting in a single game week this season, given the unique driving factors in the season that might be contributing to that. I'll chuck a link somewhere up on screen to that video if you are at all interested. Now, I'm not going to go into why I want KDB, why I want Maddison, and of course I think Haaland should be pretty obvious as to why I want him in the squad, as that will actually make this video way too long, and we're already at 37 odd minutes. But now that I know what I'm aiming for, if I come all the way back to where we are right now, which is game week 22, this is the squad with no changes. I know I will be losing Watkins, Kulusevski, Gross, probably, and Saka, and then Foden again a little bit further down the line in order to get Son in. And so my 4 transfers over the coming game weeks leading up until game week 25 will basically be bringing in Haaland, KDB, and Maddison, and it's all about the order in which I bring these players in. So KDB looks like the obvious man to bring in this week to replace Kulusevski as my differential spot in my team. Kulusevski and Gross are basically my 2 differentials. These are the guys that make me the big rank gains or not. And with Maddison back in the squad as of the FA Cup match, and likely to start either game week 22 or game week 23. Now, Maddison has been out for about 10 game weeks, so his match fitness might not be there ready to start yet, but the only reason I brought Kulusevski in is he was playing in that cam role, was making lots of darting runs in past Richarlison and getting the opportunity to set up the wide men that were floating in quite a lot. And so Kulusevski has basically lost all his threat, and so he will be the man leaving this week, and I will almost certainly be bringing KDB in. Now, KDB also might not be ready to start this week, as he's been out for the entire season, but having watched him play the 30 minutes against Huddersfield, which had me teetering on the end of excuse me, on the edge of bringing him in, Then seeing him go and getting a 12-pointer in the fixture against Newcastle, in which I was absolutely gutted that I didn't have him and didn't pull the trigger on him, and then thought about it for the next 2 weeks as the game week spanned across. It was a horrible 2 weeks, and just seeing that 12 points go by, in which I really should have just jumped on it. Then seeing him play the last 20 minutes in the FA Cup match just gone against Spurs, and just seeing how key he is to that team. He is a little bit rusty. He wasn't rusty in that Newcastle fixture, but he was rusty in that Tottenham fixture. But you can just see the way that De Bruyne reads the game, the positions he gets into, the balls that he's delivering in. He's aiming for the right players, and those players are going to have huge chances if the ball gets through to him. But the rustiness just meant that some of those balls weren't quite making its way through. And 30 minutes against a team like Burnley, if that is all I get out of KDB this week, is more than enough for me to bring him in over the top of Kulusevski, who will get 90 minutes this week, but will probably be back out on the right wing if Maddison is fit and ready to start the fixture. And so KDB will be coming in this game week. Now, if we hear from the press conferences this weekend that Haaland is also going to be back fit and ready to play against Burnley this game week, he will be coming back in for me this game week for a hit. I will not be going without Haaland or Salah if they are fit and available for any game. I will just bring them in for a hit, be done with it, bank in that 13.9 million that Haaland is currently valued at, and I'll be more than happy for Haaland to just come on for 20 or 30 minutes at the end of the fixture against Burnley as well. So if I do, that would be the ideal situation, that I do bring in Haaland for a hit, because that will bring that hit that I will eventually need to take to bring Son in future forward a little bit, although I will have to plan a little bit around that free hit chip, because obviously as soon as you use the free hit you will lose any banked transfers that you have in your squad. But bringing that hit forward to bring in someone like Haaland just kind of makes sense. We want to lock in that value as soon as possible, so that that 0.9 million that I am short of in order to get Son in game week 29 is at minimal 0.9 million, because if I wait on a Haaland and he goes straight back up to 14 million, that means I'll have to find $1 million to bring Son back in, and I will just be playing on the value for the remainder of the season. So that was a lot to get through, and I spoke very quickly about a lot of relatively complicated stuff there. So I hope that all made sense for you all, but that is it for today's video. So remember to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and until next time, I will see you again shortly. Until next time, cheers.